All right, we're live. Culver's post-game show presented by Culver's. Welcome to Delicious. Along with Jim Dunaway, I'm Ryan Brown. We will let this thing populate as Alabama has lost 32-31 at LSU and overtime. Just a terrible, terrible performance by Alabama's offense. So uneven, so sluggish, so disoriented, so everything. Dunaway, I could say a lot of things. It was a lot of things, none of them good for Alabama's offense tonight.
Well, I mean, Nick Saban always talks about a personality, right? A team develops its personality as the season goes on. And though this team didn't have as many penalties as they've had on the road tonight, I can't tell you what this team's offensive personality is, except it's Bryce Young, and let Bryce Young do whatever he can do to create any offense. But let's see, he was 25 of 51 tonight, 25 of 51. To me, by far, Bryce Young's worst game as an Alabama quarterback. But
Yep.
should he be able to throw for 328 and 25 or 51 and you lose a football game? No, you should have other players that can contribute. You should have a running game. Now it ends up looking better than it was, 137 yards, but in the first half you had no semblance of a running game. You could not run the football. And that's been the problem with this team in recent years, specifically this year. You can't run when you want to run. So you're really, Nick Saban said this week, you're playing left-handed. I think he was talking about Bryce not being able to practice, but I'll use that phrase. You're playing left-handed if you're not worried about a dominant physical running game, and this team doesn't have that. They don't have great receivers. I don't know what the play calling is. One play doesn't seem to connect to the second play, which connects to the third play. So it does seem oftentimes it's you throw everything at a canvas and see what Bryce Young can paint up at the end. And tonight it's another loss. And now you have a 2-loss team that is not going to be in Atlanta, barring disaster down the stretch from LSU and or Ole Miss. And they are not going to be in the college football playoff regardless of what happens. So Bryce Young will leave Alabama without a national championship. And it was a pretty amazing night for LSU fans, because this Brian Kelly guy, and I tweeted it before we went to overtime, for those that don't think Brian Kelly is going to win a championship at LSU, you're crazy. He's got 2 really good coordinators. We'll see how long he can keep those together. The guy knows how to recruit. He brought in a bunch of portal guys. They've got a great scheme on defense. You heard Kirk and Chris rave about that all night long. And you've got an offensive play caller who doesn't have to do a whole lot, because Jaden Daniels can create some stuff in running the football. And many, many times tonight, Bryce Young running the football, would have been a really positive play for Alabama. And, he chose not to do that. So it's easy to pick individuals throughout this. Where's Will Anderson? Where's Dallas Turner? Where's Toa Toa? Take your, pick anybody on the roster. But as a team, it's a whole bunch of something, but not the championship form you've seen in recent years.
All right, it is the Culver's post game. We're going to get to all your comments. Y'all are firing off and in early here. We'll get to them, I promise you. Culver's, welcome to Delicious. Highway 119 and 280. They're in Tattersall Park is the new location. Stadium Trace there in Hoover, just off 459 near the Hoover Met, the original Birmingham location. More to come. Great place for all of your tailgating needs for high school or college. Great butter burgers, great desserts, great fries. They've got buffalo wings. Shh, don't tell anybody yet. We're going to sample those on Tuesday. Also, Next Round Cocktails, drinknextround.com, drinknextround.com. I'm sure many of you would like to right now after watching that Alabama game. Auburn, Mississippi State going down to the wire here. Give Auburn credit. They have fought back in this game 30-25. We'll let you know there's a $1.18 to go. So we'll welcome the Auburn fans when they join us. If you're watching us on YouTube, give us a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe, set alerts, retweet us on Twitter, share us on Facebook, like us in all those places and on Twitch. All right, here we go. NH3425, Saban may fire Bill O'Brien. There's a question mark at the end of that. Saban may fire Bill O'Brien. It's weird. They went to a national championship game last year, produced a Biletnikoff-level wide receiver and a Heisman-winning quarterback, and still last year he caught a ton of criticism, and it's only gained steam this year.
God, I don't know football well enough to know if Bill O'Brien is committing fireable offenses. I know as a fan who watches, and I'm now I'm old. I'm old now, so I have enough history behind me to know the style of football that I like. Right,
Right.
and the
Right.
style of football I liked was the 11, 12, 15 style of football. Right, that was really fun. 20 was amazing, but I don't think you count on those kind of receivers all the time. So 11, 12, 15 was really fun football for me. So I being the older guy now of the fan base, I'm on the back half of being a fan. I'll die off and leave it to all you younger guys at some point. I miss the ability to control a game, to impact a game by running the football. To if you need, 3rd and 3, you line up and you can run it and get 3 yards pretty easily. So
Yeah.
I don't know if Bill O'Brien is doing a horrible job of calling plays. I know after watching Sark and Kiffin, it doesn't seem to be like he's connecting one play to the other. It doesn't seem to be a whole lot of connectivity there for me.
Yeah. Landmine believer Pete Golding and Bill O'Brien got to go. There's going to be a lot of that today here.
Yeah. I mean, it really is. I mean, but that, say what you want, but the head coach is the guy in charge, right? And
Yeah.
the game plan is put together with Nick Saban's blessing. He's in on every meeting. He's hands-on 100%. So I understand you want to blame the coordinators. That's the easy thing to do. And, we can do that for the next 58 minutes, but there's a lot of things that happen. The players themselves have got to do a bit better job too.
Yeah. Samuel, wow, Brian Kelly balls. You called it. As you and I were sitting here talking, waiting to go live, you said, hey, if they score, I'd go for 2. And I even said, you're a hero to LSU fans, make or miss. They're going to love the fact that you went after Alabama that way. You're in your first year. You're playing with house money at this point. I agree. It's ballsy, but it was the right move. Obviously, he did it. But Mr. Make, that's the right move, I think, for Brian Kelly.
Oh, 100%. For 2 reasons. Like you said, you're aggressive, you're at home, it's your first year, you're building a culture. So you go for it there, and you can go to your fan base and saying, hey, if you don't like that, you may want to get off the bus right now, because I'm going to be an aggressive coach here at LSU. We just went toe to toe with the program you guys have had a problem with most years, and we went for the win at home. We didn't get it by that much, but they end up getting it. They walk off, and it's Brian Kelly's conference right now. The rest of this year, if they can just take care of business down the stretch. He'll be in Atlanta the first year, and that team's gotten better and better as the season's gone on. But you're right. There was nothing to lose for him. He's not a 4th year, 5th year coach who is struggling to keep a job. In his first year, it was setting a tone, a culture of how we're going to play at LSU, and he comes out smelling like roses.
Auburn has just scored. Robbie Ashford runs it in for Auburn to take the lead in Starkville. Dunaway, this is a game. They were down 24-3. They've just scored to make it 33-30 with 1:05 to go. There's been a lot of talk about the emotion of playing for Carnell Williams and all the Auburn coaches, and they really have done that in this game. They have not given up. 33-30. They forced a bunch of turnovers. State has not been able to run it at all. They got negative rush yards, and Auburn with $1:05 to go has the lead here. So
yeah, and that was not going in a good direction for them, like you said early on, and they could have easily packed it in. And Carnell probably along the way, he'll probably tell us after the game, he probably gave a love of Auburn speech somewhere in the locker room at halftime, and it has worked and turned around there. So hats off to those players for staying in that one and turning around with not a whole lot to play for but pride.
Blake wants to know if the OC and the DC can be left on the tarmac in Baton Rouge. It's not been Saban's style, but look, I mean, he stuck with these guys last year, Dunaway, when some of these same issues have presented themselves. Saban has been pretty loyal. Somebody asked earlier, has he ever fired a coordinator? There probably were some that were encouraged to look for other jobs, assistants and coordinators. I think the only one you would argue he out and out fired was Lane Kiffin.
Yeah, Lane Kiffin before the national championship game. Major Applewhite was asked to, find another job after the first year. There are some people who part ways after the season, but it's not his style. He's not going to fire anybody, leave anybody on the tarmac. You guys cannot waste your time. He's too professional to do that. I do wonder, what Nick Saban is thinking as he addresses that team, a 2-loss Alabama regular season team, maybe a New Year's Six bowl team, but most likely a Capital One bowl team right now if they can stick the landing and win the rest of their games. I would imagine Tennessee goes to the Sugar Bowl, not in the playoffs maybe. Georgia goes, maybe it's LSU in the Sugar. So Alabama could be looking at the Capital One Bowl.
Wow, that is this team and all the talk about this team to end up in the Capital One Bowl would be just a gut punch.
Yeah, and keep in mind at that point, if a guy like Bryce Young decides or Will Anderson decides, hey, I'm going to check out. I mean, you guys can complain about, oh man, what about the team? What about Alabama? And just want to play one more game for Alabama. Maybe they will, maybe they won't, but they got a lot of money on the line. And, it may be the first time we've seen Alabama players check out of a postseason game because they wouldn't be in the playoffs.
Charlie asked, does Michigan move to number 2? Ohio State was far from impressive in really bad conditions, but they still they showed some issues in today's game. Michigan, sloppy in the first half, blew out Rutgers in the second half. The only thing I'm certain of is Georgia's number 1. That's the only thing I'm certain of right now.
Georgia will be 1. Ohio State will be 2.
I think so. Michigan 3 probably.
I think Michigan will be 3. Alabama losing helps the committee a little bit. They can now throw Tennessee lower than if they want to. They can throw them out of the top 4. It's going to be hard if Alabama had won to throw them lower than 4 or 5. So they have the ability, if they want to go with Clemson losing, that helps too. If I was saying right now, I would say it would be Georgia 1, Ohio State 2, Michigan 3, TCU 4, Tennessee 5 would be my prediction right now.
Yeah, that's probably about right. TCU with a good win over Texas Tech. Got to give them credit. That was a game we said that they would struggle, and now look, that's a 4-4 team, but still, they're winning games. More Brooks, Pete Golding, Bill O'Brien need to be going tomorrow. Landmine believer, 5 years of Golding getting torched, capitalized 5 years. He stuck with Golding a long time. There's no doubt. A lot of Bill O'Brien. Jay Price says, I heard Kelly can't win in the SEC. You did not hear that on this show.
Not on this show. We've called it for a championship at some point. Now, do we think he'd be playing for an SEC championship this year? We did not.
No.
Because that roster had 53 scholarship players at the end of last year, 39 for a bowl game. But they have put it back together, and they are well coached. We saw 2 well coached teams today. That Georgia team was tremendously well coached today, and that LSU team was tremendously well coached today.
Let's see. Kenneth says this team wasn't mentally tough and on the edge all year. I think Kenneth is absolutely right. This team lacks some mental toughness. Some of its leadership issues. I don't know what it is, but this team lacks mental toughness. And I think that the Dunaway that shows up when you struggle the way Alabama has on the road. They just don't have mental toughness.
Yeah, well, I used the phrase, this team doesn't have any dog in them. And you said Bryce Young does. And I'm not going to, go individuals with you. But yeah, Bryce Young does. But this team doesn't have any dog in them as a unit. This is not the kind of team. They don't play with the same emotions as other teams do. Part of that is, you're at Alabama and you've done this so many times. But this group, when teams have challenged their manhood, they have not fought back like other Alabama teams have. So I would agree with him. There's a little dog missing in this team.
Yeah, there is. I don't think there's any doubt. But, listen, Nick Saban gets praised for a lot of things. Alabama went for 2 twice, missed them both. I didn't really have that much trouble with the first 2-point conversion. I'm watching over here because Mississippi State just kicked the field goal to tie Auburn at 33. Nope, Auburn called timeout. Carnell Williams. Look at Carnell Williams, Dunaway, in his first coaching job.
He knows what he's doing.
Head coaching job, calls a timeout to ice the kicker. No, look, the first 2-point conversion, I didn't really have that much trouble with. You had scored to go up 15-14. So I didn't really have a problem. I think there were 12 minutes to go. It's a low-scoring game. You go up 3 there. I'm okay with that. The second one I didn't get at all. There's 4 minutes to go. You go for 2 to try to make it 6. So what you're thinking there is touchdown, missed extra point, we're still tied.
Right.
What I think you don't think through there is, and I know you don't have a whole lot of time to think about this, is what if they drive down and score and make it 24? Now I'm down 24-21 where I could be 24-22. Now, the argument against that, Jim, is, well, then LSU would have gone for 2 to make it 3, which is probably true, but you forced them to make that decision by kicking the extra point.
You got to already have that decision made in a sheet, and I'm sure he did. But at some point, in the game, you decide, when am I going to start looking at the sheet? And traditionally, you and I, and mostly you, call it chasing points. You're never for it the first 3 quarters. And I think that early in the fourth quarter, I didn't like chasing points there, because field goals for Alabama seemed to be the main course tonight. So, taking that 1 point, keeping a field goal in play at some point down the stretch, I thought would have been a good play. The 2-point conversions, both of them, easy to say it now because you didn't make either one of them. The odds say you're going to make one of the 2, right?
That's 50%. I think is the going rate there. Yeah.
The analytics say you make the 2-point conversion at about a 50% rate, and Alabama was 0 for 2. So hell, I'd go for it. I'd go for 2 twice in Oxford next week, and it's going to even out. But it's it's old school football that's called chasing points. He chased points early and then did it again, and in the end, the field goal wasn't to win it; it was just to send it to overtime.
Michael says this Alabama team doesn't have the speed at receiver to get separation and get open. That's apparent, I believe.
That is true, and it can also be something else. Yes, they do not have the speed to beat people over the top, but also you don't have to be John Mechie was not the fastest guy on the field. John Mechie was an elite route runner. He could run a great route to get open. And these guys are not elite route runners either. They don't have the over-the-top speed to beat them deep, but you've got to be an elite route runner. You can run your route to a point to where even if that guy is going to stay with you going deep, if you run a route and cut him, bend him, turn him the wrong way, then you're open. And these guys aren't good at doing that either.
Blake says, coming off a bye week, that's the best the offense could play. Poor offensive scheme. If it wasn't for Bryce Young, Bama would be a 5-loss team. He's probably right about. Well, he's right about all of that. That is shocking coming off a bye week. That's the performance you got.
Well, and more importantly, the offense is what the offense is. It's Bryce Young, and he's gonna wheel it and deal it, and you can't run consistently. Nick's gonna say, going to the locker room, we need to run the ball more. It's become a broken record a little bit there. We need to run the ball better, which is 100% true. But the defensive scheme is what. And Nick Saban has a big hand in this. The defensive scheme is what was surprising. That maybe it's an ego thing or whatever. When you've got a quarterback like Jaden Daniels, the man coverage can open up those long runs, and we saw it happen a couple of times tonight. It seems like they could have designed something with some extra time to work on it to control the Jaden Daniels runs a little bit, but not just the Jaden Daniels runs, the Emory runs, the walk-on, what's his name, Williams, the Williams runs. I mean, they got some big 4-yard, 5-yard, 7-yard runs that were just manhood runs where they run it right at you and they take your manhood. Toa Toa has Jaden in the backfield, but he can't get him down, and Daniels goes on a long run, or Williams is stopped 5 yards short of the sticks by, I believe it was Moody, and then Williams is able to fight through that and carry Moody and then fall forward for a first down. Those are the type things that championship Alabama teams just didn't do. They didn't do that.
Do you have the Auburn game on, Dunaway? Are you watching it?
I do not have it on right now. When I clicked off one television, it clicked off all 3 of them.
Okay, I'm sorry to hear that.
I'm looking at a dark screen. I can pull it up quickly, though. I was afraid to jeopardize my streaming. But I'll pull it right back up.
No, let's not do that. So I tell you what happened. State kicks the field goal. They had to kick it 3 times. Carnell Williams called timeout twice. He made all 3.
Smart
move. The last
move.
one obviously counted. Yeah, smart move. So it's 33-33 with 26 to go. And I don't know if they were trying to squib it off one of the Auburn up men, but they squibbed it right off of him, and State recovered. It's a dangerous play because if Auburn gets the ball there, they've got really, really good field position. But now State's got ball in hand with 1 timeout and a chance to win this game because they've got the ball out at the 48.
Okay, you let me know if somehow this impacts my streaming, okay? I now have it up.
I absolutely will. Will Rogers loose. And he's got him inside field goal range. It's going to be a tough loss for Auburn if this is the way they lose this game.
All right, I'm taking it back down now.
Right.
You tell me how it ends.
It is the Culver's post game. Culver's, welcome to Delicious, Highway 119, 280 in Tattersall Park. And also Stadium Trace in Hoover. Go by and get those great concretes, the great butter burgers, all their great food there at Culver's. My little one loves the fries. Also, Next Round Cocktails. They've got that rosé sangria, the salted lime margarita, and much more. DrinkNextRound.com. DrinkNextRound.com. Like us on Twitter, Facebook, wherever you are. Give us that old thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe and set your alerts. Follow us at Next Round Live. We'll keep you. Well, we got another play coming up here for State and Auburn, and complete. He's inbounds though. Dunaway. They don't. Oh, they've got the timeout. I thought they'd burned their timeout. Leach is calling timeout. Bradley says no alpha players on defense. The offense is so damn inconsistent. Bill O'Brien and Pete Golding both need to be left in Baton Rouge, like Lane Kiffin was dumped at the airport. There's going to be a lot of that tonight. No alphas on defense. Boy, I mean, it seems like Will Anderson's got everything to be an alpha.
He's been different this year than he's been in years past. I don't know what it is, but he has been different. Huh?
Just on the field, off, what you've seen in press conferences. What do you think? Just on the field?
No, on the field. I mean, again, I'm not smart enough to break down X's and O's. So I would imagine when you sit down and dive into an offensive scheme, the first thing you want to do is take 31 out of the mix. So I assume he's fighting through a number of double teams and schemes that are preventing him from being a huge part of what Alabama can do defensively. So you run away from him, you block, double team him, triple team him, chip him, all that stuff. But he has not been the impact we thought he was going to be throughout a game. Now, he was pretty dominant early on, but then near the end of the game, big moments, when do you hear his name called?
Yeah, no, I mean, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Dallas Turner had a lot of stuff come his way. Brian Branch ended up on Booty a lot tonight, and he won some of those battles, and he lost some. Had a couple pass interference there. Tyler says Nick is on the hook. He has admitted he's changed the way he approaches these kids. It's a problem. Look, he has admitted that. I mean, I'm hesitant to say Nick Saban can't coach in this era of college football. I think it'd be silly to say that, but anybody that's played for him says you can look at him and tell he's changed his approach a little bit because of the type of player you get this day and age in college football and all the things in the transfer portal. A kid can be going just like that, the NIL, all those things.
Yeah, well, Will Lowry told us that in the postgame show, right, at Tennessee, that he didn't know what he would tell the team afterwards because he didn't play for this Nick Saban.
That's right.
And that, it's a very different Nick Saban now. Does it impact the way they play? I don't know. I would tell you, Kerry, that you in the day of the transfer portal, if you are not, you've got to somehow balance the act from between being a hard coach and a player's coach, or you could lose 40 guys to the portal at the end of the year. And my dad, if he was here right now, he's alive. He's just not on the microphone. He's in Alabaster. My dad would say, well, the hell with them. If they want to go somewhere else, let them go somewhere else. So that's all fine and dandy in the Dunaway brain of scheming, but you do have to field the team. So, I would not disagree that that Nick Saban coaches differently now than he did in 2011 and 2012. But I would also tell you this, Alabama's depth, not as good as it was in 2011 and 2012 or 2015 or 2017. Because Kirby Smart's in Georgia now, and Jimbo Fisher, though he can't win games, did recruit well the last couple of years. So I think some of Alabama's depth of talent is not as good as it has been in the past. And so when you're coaching, you got to leave some guys out there because they're still better than the guys you're going to challenge them with to put them in on the 2 line. And in the past, you could put the 2 in there to challenge the 1, and the 2 was oftentimes almost as good or as good as the 1.
Auburn, 54-yard game-winning field goal came up short. You know what Carnell Williams did not do? Put a man back in the end zone to try to return it, a la kick 6. They hit in the end zone short. So overtime, and this might be Dunaway. Say it is without doing the research. The first time in our state's history where the 3 major programs have gone to overtime in the same day. Alabama, UAB, and Auburn all in overtime.
Well, first off, UAB fans would like to say thank you for including them as major programs at that point.
Three biggest ones, right?
Yeah, Troy and South Alabama
No
got
offense
wins. Troy and South Alabama got wins today as well.
I don't know if they were in overtime, though. I don't think
They were not. I think they were fairly dominant performances. I just know they turned up L on my prediction sheet today.
Dave says Ashford may not be the best QB1, but he's got heart. The dude isn't holding anything back. Yeah, he's 7 of 20 passing, so he's not had a good night throwing the football, but he's got what's he got? 108 rush yards.
Hey, it doesn't matter how you win.
He plays hard.
Hey, it doesn't matter how you win. I just watched Notre Dame beat the number 4 team in the country. Dabo's Clemson team, Notre Dame beat them, and I'm not sure Notre Dame had 100 yards passing tonight.
Yeah, boy, you want to talk about a team that's got some offensive issues. And that fine, they're to the point now where even as a one-loss conference champion, they may not get in. I mean, you might put Tennessee in front of them.
Yeah, they're undefeated in the ACC because that game doesn't count.
Right.
It was an ACC scheduled game. It was a bad loss. They got beat badly by a Notre Dame team. And I think Dabo left DJ Uyunglele in to fed him to the Wolves tonight. You probably see the quarterback change now. Afterwards, he really didn't change it when the game was meaningful tonight.
Well, he went to Klubnik and he threw an interception, almost threw one, and then eventually did throw one. So he struggled a little bit. It was just a bad night for them. The most embarrassing loss he's had since he really got it going at Clemson there.
Yeah, didn't he lose to West Virginia in the Orange Bowl like 50-something to 10?
Yeah, that's true. You're right. Yeah, they got run out of that one.
Since then.
Yeah, since that one. JD says, does Liberty's win make Hugh Freeze the next Auburn coach? I don't know, but that's a good time to do it, right?
LT would have told you he should have been the Auburn's number 1 candidate before all week long since Harsin was fired, and maybe some boosters would have said we tried to hire him last time and you guys wouldn't let us hire him, so we're going to try to hire him again this time. The guy can coach. He went in there, flew with a quarterback, but they played the quarterback who'd battled the flu all week long. He doesn't really have his number 1 quarterback completely healthy. He's played 3 different quarterbacks this year. And they just went into an SEC stadium and got a pretty comfortable win today.
Yeah, well, it had to hold the 2-point conversion there at the end from Arkansas. Great win for Liberty and bad loss for Arkansas. Michael says that was Tua's Clemson 2018 game. Bryce was seeing ghosts. I mean, look, everybody's going to have a bad game. And Tua was bad in that 2018 game against Clemson. Started off with that interception and just never really recovered. And Bryce was this is the worst game he played. Really, the concerning thing is, and he had a better fourth quarter, but this is pretty much 6 straight quarters. If you go back to halftime of the Mississippi State game, that he has struggled. I don't know if it's the shoulder. I don't know if it's Bill O'Brien. I don't know if it's the receivers, the offensive line, the inconsistent run game, all the above. I don't know, Jim, but there's something there.
Well, if you're in the Young camp, the Bryce Young camp, you want it to be the shoulder, right? Especially if any NFL personnel is asking you. If you're a NFL scout who is someday going, if you're like one of the scouts for a team that is debating drafting Bryce Young, and another scout or maybe the main scout is saying we're going to draft Bryce Young, and you're the one scout that doesn't want to draft Bryce Young, you probably put in tonight's tape and say, look at the pressure. Look how disoriented he is throwing the football when he gets pressure straight up the middle. And that's I don't care if you're 6'7" or 5'10", pressure up the middle impacts the quarterback the most, right? Right over the center, right over the A gap, the B gap. That's where the pressure of the quarterback is impacted the most. But for Bryce Young, he can't see. And that's something Kyler Murray and all the, Drew Brees, all of them dealt with that when it was coming right over the middle. Herbstreit actually said this tonight. A couple of his throws where it just looked like he threw it into the ground, he couldn't see, and he was throwing just off a memory of where he thought the receiver would be, right, and hoping he timed it up right. And that's, if you're an NFL team and you hear that, because you get pressure up the middle all day long in the NFL, that's a scary proposition. So Bryce Young's camp will be saying it's shoulder, shoulder, shoulder. And if you're the scout in the NFL that does not want to draft Bryce Young, you're going to be saying, no, the pressure up the middle is going to be too much for this guy. So I think Bryce Young is tremendous. I think he'll be good at the NFL level, but I don't know who will be great at the NFL level, and I don't think the NFL teams do either.
Ray P., I am more shocked that an Alabama team can be this undisciplined. Why do our players look like away games scare the hell out of them? That will be a question that Nick Saban probably ponders when he's rocking in a chair next to Lake Burton that all of a sudden, Dunaway, just out of the blue, Alabama became a crap road team over the last 2 years. They used to be better on the road than they were at home most of the time. And they're just the exact opposite now. I don't know why.
Well, I mean, that's the DNA of the culture inside the locker room. And it was a little bit of a problem last year.
Right.
But it wasn't a problem the year before, but that was a COVID year. And I don't think it was a big problem in 19. 19, you got beat at home, and then you got beat at Jordan-Hare Stadium. But getting beat at Jordan-Hare Stadium in the Iron Bowl isn't I don't think a DNA problem. So really, it's happened last year and this year where it's really become a major problem with the team. But there's no doubt this team is no longer the hunter. The people that are playing with Alabama's old attitude is that group in Athens, Georgia these days. That team looks like old school Alabama, and Alabama does not look like its old self anymore. So what can the new look Alabama team do? Can they get the old hungry back that they've had in the past? Maybe going to the Capital One Bowl will relight a fire or something.
We are on the Culver's postgame show. We're live. Thank you for joining us. We're going to be here for a little bit. We're still waiting on the Auburn fans to join us because their game just went to overtime. 33-33 Auburn in overtime, about to kick a field goal in their first overtime possession. Boy, I hate doing this, Dunaway. I mean, you got to do it. By that, I mean kicking overtime in your first, or kick a field goal in your first overtime possession. But boy, that puts your defense in a bind when you have to settle for three. And Carlson missed it, by the way. Carlson missed it, so now Auburn's in real trouble.
Yeah, so now the field goal wins it for Mississippi State. So no need for them to risk the biscuit at all and try to sling it around, though it is Mike Leach, so they'll have to throw it.
Well, they haven't been able to run the ball. I think they're negative in rush yards tonight. So
I'm shocked. I'm floored.
Are you stunned at that, Dunaway? Let me see what they are.
I'm stunned at that. But I can't sit on my high horse anymore and criticize the way Mike Leach coaches offensive football, because the team I am closest to, Alabama, does not play murder ball like they used to play.
They sure don't.
So they have morphed into more Mike Leach than I am comfortable with.
The thing that got them to positive yardage was that Rodgers scramble at the end of regulation that set up the field goal to potentially take the win. So they've got 8 rush yards. So they'll be heaving it all over the field.
So Alabama only outrushed Mississippi State about 129 yards tonight.
That's a significant amount, but yes, only 129 yards. It is the Culver's post-game show. Culver's, welcome to Delicious 119. 280 in Tattersall Park, also at Stadium Trace. Thank you to Culver's and Next Round Cocktails. DrinkNextRound.com. DrinkNextRound.com. Give us a thumbs up. Like us. What?
My point, Brown. Alabama, 99 is close to 100, but Jahmyr Gibbs had 134-yard run that made it really close to 100. Alabama in an LSU game did not have a 100-yard rusher.
Yeah. That used to be what Alabama did to LSU, remember?
Yeah.
Like when Fournette was the stud and all that, and Alabama would shut them down.
Yeah.
Give us a thumbs up wherever you're watching us. Also, make sure you follow us on social media at Next Round Live, everywhere on social media at Next Round Live. Visit the Next Round store, nextround.store. The fall collection is in there as well, nextround.store. I think Auburn just committed a pass interference in the end zone, so State's about to be able to ice this thing away.
Quick update, if you're an Alabama fan joining us, basketball season starts Monday night. Longwood in town. Longwood for the regular season opener Monday night. Chris Stewart and Brian Pasick on the Crimson Tide Sports Network for that one.
Eddie says, how many sit out the bowl game? Eddie, there's no way of knowing that, obviously, at this point, but this will be the first time in this era that Alabama's going to have to worry about something like that.
That's right.
There's really no realistic Alabama for Atlanta now, is there? LSU's going to have to lose
twice.
And first of all, Alabama's got to beat Ole Miss,
which isn't a given.
Which is far from a given. LSU's got to lose twice more. I don't have their schedule in front of me. I know they still play Arkansas.
And Texas and Texas A&M.
Texas A&M. I don't see a realistic path for Alabama. This is a team that's not even going to make it to Atlanta. Touchdown State, so they have won this game. 39-33. State has won 39-33 in overtime. So give Auburn credit, man. They fought back in that game. They did not give up. Could have easily packed it in, but they lose in overtime. And Jordan gives us a go Tigers. He didn't feel like that was enough, so he added the effing to it. Go effing Tigers.
A good win. I mean, great win for LSU. I mean, think
No
about
doubt.
where they were going into that bowl game last year with 39 scholarship players. Should we go play the game, not go play the game? Hell yeah, we're going to go play the game, the LSU. We're going to play for LSU. We're going to throw 39 players out there and we're going to play the game. And they fought their butts off in that bowl game. You hire Brian Kelly. Kelly comes in and rebuilds this roster with, I mean, freshmen that made plays tonight, guys that were playing high school football last year were big contributors tonight, and then portal guys were big contributors tonight. And he's got an LSU rebuilt roster that'll look nothing like after he gets the recruiting going down there. He's got them in control of their own destiny to go to Atlanta and still possibly could be a 2-loss team in the college football playoffs if they were to win out and make it there. They could be the first one. They're sort of playing the role of Auburn from what was that, 2017 now. So
Yeah.
I mean, go effing Tigers. Absolutely. If you're an LSU fan, you've got to love everything about Brian Kelly and what he's doing so far. And you go back, Brownie, to that Florida State game, their path to the playoffs would be so much easier in that Florida State game if they just didn't have, what was it, an extra point, a game-winning field goal blocked. So
yeah, game-winning extra point, or
yeah.
no, to send it to overtime, right? The extra point to send it to overtime.
Yeah. So it's I mean, that's the difference in them having control of their own destiny for the playoffs right now.
No, I mean, Brian Kelly's, like, for instance, I do not know where this comes from, and I don't know that Jordan's directing this at us, quote unquote, Brian Kelly is a bad fit. Again, a lot of people said that. Nobody on this show, we were Brian Kelly respecters. We were at Notre Dame, and we all said when he got hired at LSU, fantastic hire. He's a polarizing guy. A lot of people don't think that. I think Brian Kelly's a spectacular coach.
Yeah.
And he's about to take LSU to Atlanta in his first year. That's an incredible job in the SEC West.
Yeah, but there were people who would question whether or not he'd be able to recruit in the South because he's from the North. Same things you heard about Brian Harston when he got the job. But
Right.
this guy likes to recruit, and he was a very good recruiter to get those guys. The kind of talent he had at Notre Dame wasn't LSU talent, wasn't SEC talent, wasn't good enough to win in the playoffs, but it was good enough to get to the playoffs, and they won some big games. And now with LSU on his shirt recruiting, he can get a different caliber of player. And you've seen that just in 1 year of the few freshmen he brought in and the portal guys he brought in. But more importantly, the motivator he is, the guy who manages the program he is, and the coordinators he coordinates, that he puts in position and he manages, are really good. His teams are always well coached.
All right, let's do like they do in the NFL games. We welcome those of you that were watching Auburn's loss at Mississippi State. Tough loss for the Tigers. He is Jim Dunaway. I'm Ryan Brown. We've been here for a little more than half an hour after Alabama went final. Their loss in overtime. Auburn's loss in overtime. Dark day in our state here. So we'll continue talking with you about it. You can fire us off in the chat room right there. We're trying to catch up. We're playing behind a little bit. It's hard to stay caught up. I'm gonna forward ahead. Cornbread says, "Where is LT? He's watching USC." Goose says, I thought Brian Kelly was going to lose when he was playing for overtime with less than 30 seconds and 2 timeouts. Take a shot downfield is what I was thinking. I was wrong. He did take the knee Dunaway. He had timeouts and a pretty hot Jaden Daniels. I thought playing for overtime was probably the right call there.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, he's won the game, so absolutely playing for overtime was the right call. I think he already knew in his head that if he got to overtime and he scored a touchdown and happened to be going last like he was, he would go for 2 already. He already knew what he was doing. So it was, I mean, what are you going to do there? You're going to take a chance to throw an interception and give Reichert a late kick to win it and walk off? No, you go to overtime.
Yeah, I thought, especially at home, I know, everybody says if you're the home underdog, I don't think he thinks of himself as the underdog, but, are you in theory playing a better team? Yeah, in theory you are. So you probably, I thought he coached it. Brian Kelly coached that game perfectly. I don't know anything I could look at and say, God, Brian Kelly should have done that differently. I thought he coached that game as well as you could possibly coach it.
Yeah, not at all. There's nothing you could do differently if you're either one of those coordinators. The defensive scheme was really good. I thought they did a good job on the offense, and his demeanor and the way he managed the game. He doesn't seem to get he chews on the officials, but he doesn't seem to get red-faced like he did at Notre Dame. He was very composed tonight, and that place is always a magical place. It's my favorite road trip. And, it was seeing it through fresh eyes with Herb Street and Fowler being there, a rare occasion for them to be there for a meaningful night game in Baton Rouge. It was, it must have been hopping. But I'm glad.
I'm
But
sure.
technically, I'm glad I wasn't there because it would suck right now to be there.
And then have to drive home. Justin says the O'Brien hire was just as bad or worse than the Harsin hire. I don't know if you can say that.
No, you weren't. You weren't saying that after the SEC championship game last year.
No. Again, I mean, it's such a weird thing. Like I was telling you the story, when all this Harsin stuff, as it was going, obviously, as the season started, I had a national college football reporter reach out to me just to pick my brain on it. And he mentioned at Alabama, and he mentioned Bill O'Brien. I said, yeah, Alabama fans would love for him to take another job. Because, are you serious? I was like, yes. Do you watch Alabama? Their offense is a mess. So Bryce Young bails them out of so many bad situations. And he goes, but he just won the Heisman last year. What more do they want? And I'm like, I know it sounds stupid, but he won the Heisman with
in
an offensive
spite of.
Yeah, in spite of his offensive
Bill,
yeah. Yeah, and I think you're seeing it this year, Dunaway. I mean, Bryce Young does some magical things. And look, again, we said it earlier, he's played his worst probably the last 6 quarters of football, the worst he's played at Alabama, but he still bails them out of so many bad situations.
Yeah, here's what has to happen for Alabama moving forward. The O-line coach, you hold on to him, and you let that guy go find 5, 6, 7 beasts, whether it's whether they're on the roster, which I don't think they are. You let him go in the portal, and he finds 7 dogs, like 7 people that okay, you've either got to go to the state penitentiary or go play football at Alabama. There's those 2 choices. Yeah, I mean, those are your 2 choices. You're sentenced to either 4 years in the state pen, or you can play football at Alabama.
Right.
I mean, you need to get back to some offensive linemen who can both pass block and run, because with Bryce Young at quarterback, obviously it's been a passing offense, and I think, and everybody says this is just modern day football. Well, I think you can do both. I think you can be a good passing team, and you can be a well-balanced run attack team, to have the ability to have some linemen who can line up and smear you into the ground running the football. I think the O-line is not as good as it was in 19 or 20, or even the times before that. So the last 2 years seems to gradually got worse. Thought it was coaching last year. The coach they have is really good now. Let him recruit some guys and start with the offensive line. And then you've got to bring these receivers along and hope you still have, quality in the quarterback room, and you suit up and do it again next year.
Let's see. Shane says on the last play, DBs were distracted by too many men on the field. That's coaching. Not ready for a pick play, coaching. Play man-to-man instead of combo coverage, coaching. That's a lot of coaching there that went poorly. They did, coming out of a timeout, and I know they're trying to match personnel, but, having to run Malachi Moore off late like that probably, it probably throws you out of kilter a little bit.
I don't know why you have to invent the wheel, because every Alabama fan watching will remember this. When Kirby was the coach there, and it's the Kirby Smart Love Fest today with me. I know that. I've told you twice about what a good coach he is. But when Kirby was there, coming out of a timeout, Alabama would have 13 defenders on the field. And when they would come out with the personnel, then 2 of them would run off, right? Depending on the personnel. That's right. So you're not running people off and running people on. They'd have 13 out. The people who were the 4 decision, 2 on, 2 off guys were sort of in a bundle over here, close to the sidelines. And when they came
not in formation,
not in formation, they were sort of standing in a bundle. Yeah. And when the team came onto the field, they'd call down, and Kirby would signal, and those 2 guys would come off. You don't have to invent the wheel. Just go look at old game tapes. That's how you used to do it, to get caught with 12 on the field. You were about to get caught with 12 on the field on the play before that, but LSU called timeout, luckily, and then you still had 12 on the field coming out. I don't know if it impacted the play, but it's not the look of a machine that Alabama used to be.
Robert says, indeed, I would have bet the house on Mississippi State if Harsin was still the coach, but the plus 13 was free money. Probably didn't feel that way when it was 24-3, but it ended up being free money. He's right.
Yeah, easy cover at that point. Auburn had a chance, could have won the game at the end. When it was 24-3, though, I was worried about it being just a horrible 40-3, 45-3 beatdown, and the team quitting. So hats off first to the guys in the uniform, and then to Carnell himself, that you didn't shut it down when it was 24-3, when you really had not a lot to play for but pride. And I think it tells you a lot about the people in those uniforms that played for pride, down 24-3 on the road, and fought back and had a chance to win that game.
Yeah, Michael says, War Damn Eagle. They played hard all game long. That's all we can ask for at this point. They did play hard. I mean, again, as you said, down 24-3, you don't pack it in. That's an easy time. There's been a lot of questions. Had Brian Harsin lost that locker room? If you've got a fractured locker room, you generally don't come back from 24-3. But
Yep.
I don't know what's going on with TJ Finley, but I think it's that looked like Carnell Williams saying, listen, I'm going to take the guys to Starkville that want to be on the field at Starkville. And TJ, if you don't want to be that guy, that's fine, man. Stay back here. Stay in Auburn. That's
That's
great.
right.
Get your crap together. If you want to be back on the field against Texas A&M, you'll be there for us. But I'm taking the guys that want to be on the field at Starkville, and that's who's getting on the plane or the bus or however they get to Starkville.
That's right. I'm taking 70 people that want to do it the way we want to do it here at Auburn.
That's right.
And if you're going to bitch and moan, then you can bitch and moan on TikTok like you did.
That was a cringy. Taylor Cord, our social media director, sent us the TikTok to our group text and said, "This is one of the cringiest TikToks I've ever seen," and it was. I really don't get it, to be honest with you.
But it really is a character thing right there. At that point, you're showing who you are. You're showing why you're not on the trip, right?
Yeah.
If you're going to post that TikTok, then you're showing to the rest of the world what the coaches saw and probably overlooked along the way to keep you on the team. It's pretty much a bitch move to do that on TikTok. That's why you're not on the trip.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Dunaway, let's see. I'm digging through. I'm trying to get some. We got a lot of leave the coaches on the tarmac, so I'm trying to get some of this real quick. Just some other games, real quick. How about Florida winning at Texas A&M? Jimbo Fisher's got to win out to be bowl eligible. That's crazy,
That's right.
isn't it?
So they're now 3-6.
Yep.
And it was, I mean, the Texas A&M fans did not look like they were having a good time. And when they were leaving the stadium, and I know there's no joy in Alabama tonight, but when you're 3-6 at Texas A&M and you're fighting to be bowl eligible, I mean, they would have to beat LSU to be bowl eligible. I don't know the rest of their schedule, but one of those is a win over the LSU team that is clicking at a pretty good rate. Got to beat Auburn and Jordan Hare, and I don't know what the other one is, but they got to win them all. They got to win them all to be bowl eligible.
Yep. Auburn, UMass, LSU. I'll give them UMass, but I'm not giving them anything else. I mean, I don't know that Auburn team I just saw at State would beat Texas A&M at home.
That's right.
So,
watch the portal gates open up for those guys. Watch it
no
open
doubt.
up. I mean, because you got 5-star recruits that can find a landing place anywhere they want to go, and if they don't like the Jimbo and the culture there, that's what'll happen.
Michael says, since Alabama can't win the SEC championship or national championship, do you think Bryce Young shuts it down the rest of the year to get the shoulder healthy? It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, look, I guess the West is technically still alive. I'm sure there's a way you could win it. But, I mean, at Ole Miss next week, if it is his shoulder, Dunaway, if it is his shoulder, now that a lot of that is off the table, you wonder if you go with Ty Simpson or Jalen Milroe or a combo with Ty Simpson and Jalen Milroe. Let him rest there. Let him rest against Austin Peay. And if he's healthy for the Iron Bowl, let him play the Iron Bowl. I don't know what his shoulder is like. He doesn't look healthy.
Well, LSU has to lose. They've only got 2 SEC games left. So they would have to lose 2 Arkansas and 2 Texas A&M. I mean, that's possible. And then Alabama would have to beat Ole Miss to get there. And that's why the percentages were so low when you saw it tonight. 84% for the winner. And I think Alabama was LSU was 0.2%. I think Alabama was maybe a little higher than that. So the probability of getting to Atlanta is very small. If Bryce needs surgery at some point on that shoulder, I don't blame him at all. If he goes ahead and gets it done now, I don't know how. I'd love to know what you guys think in the chat right now, but it's 7-2 with no chance at playing for an SEC or national championship. I'm okay if he goes ahead and takes care of himself for his NFL future. I'd like to start building for next year. I'm okay with building for next year with the quarterbacks that you have in the room and the running backs and the receivers, the linebackers, anybody that wants to shut it down. I've never had a problem with that. If you don't want to play and you want to take care of yourself, go do it. I play for championships, and that's not happening this year. So I'd like to start working on the 2023 season as soon as possible.
Unless there's a tiebreaker that favors Alabama.
A 3-way tie?
No, they can't, because LSU would have beaten Ole Miss and Alabama. So there's not one that favors them. Yeah. They would need LSU to lose at Arkansas next week. They play UAB at home. That one doesn't matter in these terms. And then lose at Texas A&M. So they're at least both road games. But again, I think Alabama fans, while you love playing for an SEC championship, would look at this and say that team you saw tonight gets run out of Mercedes-Benz by the Georgia team that played today. Now, those same two teams might not face one another. We've seen it before. But Dunaway, the Georgia team you saw today versus the Alabama team you saw today at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, that's an unmitigated beatdown right there.
Yeah, I think it is. When you look at this run for Nick Saban, we've seen this situation before, right? 2010, when you had no chance playing in that Iron Bowl of going to Atlanta, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you were
was
just trying to ruin it for Auburn at that point.
You were just trying to ruin it for Auburn. So there is stuff to still play for. You want to play for your teammates and such like that. So I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying
2019 Iron Bowl was at Jordan-Hare, and you had a backup quarterback, and you weren't going to Atlanta. LSU was going, and both those teams played a classic to the wire in 2019.
Yeah. So I'm not saying there's not stuff to play for. I'm just saying if Bryce is going to have surgery at some point after the season, if he needs to shut it down now, totally okay with that. Not going to bother me.
Ryan says hello from Los Angeles. Hello, Ryan.
Hello, LA. Congratulations to Astros are the world champions, not the Dodgers.
Astros are the world champions, not the Dodgers. USC's up 13-7, but you probably expected more than that.
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe he's a UCLA fan. They're up 21-10.
Yeah. Let's see. A lot of people asking about Nick Saban retiring because of NIL, because of all this. I think we're just talking right after a loss here. I don't know that. Yeah. I don't know that it's time for that conversation.
Yeah, but I mean, it's gonna happen someday, right?
Well, it is, but I mean, Jim, I just think when you look at that guy's history, when you look at Nick Saban in his history, there's nothing in his history that tells you his retirement is going to be based on wins and losses, or I thought we were going to win a championship and we didn't. That guy is too process oriented. That's all he ever talks about is the process, not the results, right? So he's not. You wouldn't think he's inclined to make a big decision like that based on results, more so based on process. So what's his process? His process is go out, recruit, develop, and put on the field. So I think the minute he's like, hey, that doesn't light my fire anymore, or I can't do it at an elite level anymore, I think that's when he retires.
Yeah, he is more likely to once again reinvent his style, I think, than he is to retire. But if he does retire, it won't be announced like on Monday. This is Nick Saban's last season. He's decided he's going to retire at the end of this season. He doesn't have the DNA and the personality to want to coach and answer questions for 3 weeks or 4 weeks left in the season of, hey, it's going to be your last time playing Auburn. It's going to be your last time on the road in the SEC. It's going to be your last bowl game. He's not the kind of coach that wants to do that. He doesn't want a farewell tour. So if he ever does, when he does retire, I think it would come at the end of a season after a bowl game or after a playoff game, win or lose.
Chris says, Caddy showed more emotion in one game than Harsin did his entire tenure. Love that guy. Tough ending. He did, man. If you watch that game up and down the sidelines, showing emotion, getting that team, keeping them emotionally in the game. Yeah, they lost the game, but if you're looking for emotion, he brought you emotion.
It's his school. It's his school. You expect that, it's going to be that way for him if he's not coaching the team. Like if he doesn't get the head coaching job, if he's not on the staff, if he's just back on the sidelines on a weekend at Jordan-Hare Stadium, he is going to, he's going to be there emotionally. It's his school. And that's why it's always so attractive to hire people from your school, because it means more to them than it does to other people.
Yep. February Stars says, last year we were praying Bill O'Brien would get offered a job somewhere else. No play action pass, hitch routes, running left or right, with no success with screens. Again, I'm no coach. I'm no X's and O's guy, Dunaway, but we say it all the time. They're just never, even at the best of times for Alabama, there's never felt like there's any flow in this offense. Like, we got spoiled watching games in this state with Steve Sarkisian and Lane Kiffin calling offense. Those guys call an offensive game with flow. And Bill O'Brien, it just doesn't feel like there's any flow. It feels like you grab something off the top shelf and then something from the bottom shelf, and you drop a can, and you have to clean that mess up while you're getting – there's just no flow to it. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I think some of that comes after watching how good Sark and how good
No, I
Kiffin
don't
were
care.
at stacking plays on top of each other. You know who else was really good at that? Jim McElwain back in the day. He was really good at that.
Yeah, they didn't score a ton of points in
No.
comparison to what they do now. But I agree. I've always thought Nussmeier got a bum rap. And I think Brian Dable did too. I think we're seeing in the NFL Brian Dable's a good football coach.
No, absolutely.
And Brian Dable's offenses often were challenged, but they were challenged because Jalen Hurts wasn't a proficient passer at the time. And for whatever reason, Nick Saban was hesitant to go to Tua Tagovailoa until the bitter end there. I would like to.
Dable called a pretty good game in the second half of that national championship, though.
When he had a quarterback that could throw the ball, yeah. And I would like to have seen him some because, again, we've seen Brian Dable's a good coach. I would like to have seen him with Tua. I really would have. You know, we were just talking about Bryce Young and not winning a championship. You know, it's going to be kind of crazy that the two best quarterbacks that have ever played at Alabama will not – and I know Tua won the 17 one, but will never have gone, you know, where it's their season and they won a championship. That's never going to happen for Bryce Young and Tua Tagovailoa. And they're the two best quarterbacks ever to play at Alabama. It's kind of strange.
Tua did not start a game in 2017, is what you're trying to say.
Yeah. Yep. He was never the starter.
So when you look back, that season starter was Jalen Hurts. So, yeah, I always mistakenly say Tua didn't win one either, when technically he did throw the pass. Quarterback the second half wouldn't have won it without him, but really wasn't his team. It was Jalen Hurts' team.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just think of the – A.J. McCarron's, probably not half the quarterback, right? That Bryce Young or Tua Tagovailoa is. NFL scouts would tell you that. But A.J. McCarron, has two of those things, and was a big part of it and was a great leader. So it's we take it for granted how hard it is to win championships, even the SEC championship. We take it for granted. We're spoiled. I'm sitting here just as spoiled as everybody else. It feels like the season's over with now. At 7-2, and they've got 3 games left to play, and a lot of good football still out there. But I'm here telling you that, Auburn opens up Monday night with George Mason. Longwood is in Tuscaloosa to play Alabama, and Alabama State's down at UAB. We tipped the round ball off on Monday night.
Yeah. Let's see. My question: who is the receivers coach? That unit has not improved all season long. That would be Holman Wiggins. Holman Wiggins has been at Alabama quite a while. I say quite a while. I'm going to guess. I mean, he goes back to the – I'm going to step out on a limb here because it's hard to remember with all the assistants, but I'm going to say he was the receivers coach for that trio or that time where you had Devontae Smith, Jerry Jeudy, Jalen Waddle.
Well, what you're telling me is he's a great recruiter.
I'm going to say he's had some good receivers, and this has not always been trouble under his watch. I mean, even last year, he had Jamison Williams, who had done nothing at Ohio State and was lead at Alabama, and John Mechie, who was really, really good.
He came to Alabama in 2019. So he's
I overstated that a little bit.
2019 season. Yep.
Yeah. All right. So he's coached some pretty good receivers, though. I mean, Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith, Jamison Williams, John Mechie. So I don't know that I would totally point the finger at him, but Alabama, this is as bad as they've been at receiver in quite a while. They are just there's no game changers at receiver, not one, not a single one.
Wiggins is credited with helping Devontae Smith win the Heisman Trophy.
Okay, that's pretty good
right here. Yep,
that's pretty good. Steve says, if Bill O'Brien gets hired at Auburn, I'm becoming a New Mexico fan.
Oh, it's funny you said that. Holman Wiggins, who we were just talking about, is a New Mexico grad.
How about that?
Way to go full circle.
You may get to pull for Holman Wiggins one day. Says, Alabama is currently #1 recruiting class. NIL isn't killing his recruiting. It's not. There's no doubt it is. Again, we were talking about Dunaway just having to deal with today's player with the transfer portal, with NIL. You do have to coddle today's player a little bit more than Nick Saban had to in 9, 10, and 11 and 12.
Yes, you do. But this is hard to describe here.
All right.
You have to play a certain style of football because you have Bryce Young, because you have such a talented guy, right? At quarterback, you have to play a certain style of football. You have to play the style that benefits Bryce Young, right?
Right.
He's too talented not to let him throw the ball so much. And um, I'm not saying you have to, to do it the way a lot of Alabama fans want to do it. You have to have a game manager back there. But Bryce Young is so uber talented at quarterback, you have to play a certain way with him back there. Or it probably just would be coaching malpractice to line up and run the ball more than you throw the football. But it'll be interesting to see how this team plays moving forward without Bryce Young or Tua Tagovailoa back there or those elite receivers. If you go back to it, like I said earlier, if Nick Saban uses this like he did, after 2016 and decides, or after 2017 and decides to, hey, I'm going to reinvent how I want to coach. It's time for me to morph this again a little bit. It'll be interesting to see what he chooses to do and what that quarterback looks like. Like I don't see, obviously Jalen Milroe isn't going to play the way Bryce does. I haven't seen TJ Simpson, but I get the feeling that Ty Simpson,
yep.
TJ as I like to call him, Ty Simpson. I haven't seen him enough, but you've already got quarterback recruits stacking on top of each other. Do any of them play like Bryce Young, or you're going to go back to a different style of quarterback and a different style of play? To me, that'll be fascinating to see what Nick Saban says when this season's done about how he's going to rebuild this team in the future.
Let's see. LT's neighbor says Bama's defense has not made a clutch play in forever. They literally can't force a turnover. It's just sit back and give the offense what they need.
Yeah, no,
it does feel that way.
Yeah, I said it to you. I said it to you when we were already on this format, not live yet, but you and I were able to talk to each other as we were watching overtime. And I said, Brown, if they score here, in the past Alabama teams, I would feel like the game was over with. Like there's no way they would score a touchdown on an Alabama defense of yesteryear. And that has just not been this team's DNA since they got exposed in San Jose by Santa Clara by Dabo, since that game.
I would say since Jeremy Pruitt left.
Yeah.
That was it. Since because after Jeremy Pruitt, help me remember this, you went Tosh Lapoy, right? And Pete Golden came in. Yeah, for 1 year. And Pete Golding came in. So since Pruitt, you've gone Tosh Lapoy and Pete Golding. So I would say since Jeremy Pruitt, and there are a lot of people that will say Jeremy Pruitt was actually the best coordinator that Alabama's had defensively, even better than Kirby.
I've heard that. I've heard
that. I don't know if it's true. Today, listen, the Georgia defensive performance today is one of the best I have seen in years against that Tennessee defense. So it's gonna be hard for you to talk to me about anybody being better than Kirby after what I saw today.
Yeah, see, that's the only thing I got right this weekend, by the way, was that Kirby getting a chance to see his style of defensive play against the fastball of Tennessee, because Tennessee, to win that Alabama game, showed you everything Heupel had in the cupboard. And to be able to get a look at that, scheme that up, and then be able to adjust as he adjusts off that, it was a perfectly coached game. And a lot of people forget Will Muschamp, because they never show him on television, is part of that brain trust as well. So they've got an unbelievable defensive brain trust over in Athens. But it's Kirby's team, so all credit to Kirby. That was a great defensive game plan. There wasn't one moment today, not one moment today, even when they scored a late touchdown, that Tennessee felt comfortable running their offense. Nothing they did against Alabama or against anybody else this year was available to them in that game. Kirby took it all away.
You know what Alabama cannot do that Kirby's teams can do, and you saw it, was
cover an extended time downfield.
Oh, yes, that. But no, the point I was going to make was when the third quarter started and Tennessee had the first possession, they go down. I think they turn it over in downs, if memory serves. And then Georgia gets it back and runs 8:50 off the clock. I mean, just right down their throat, ends up kicking a field goal.
Yep.
And I mean, so basically you gave Tennessee one third quarter possession.
That's right.
You immediately shrunk that game down. And that's where Kirby, is still got enough of the way it was when he was at Alabama. But that defense is good enough he could still do that. Does that make sense? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, it's 24-6, and he says because they didn't really get aggressive in the second half offensively.
Nope.
They
He
said,
lifted a little bit. He lifted a little bit in the second
yeah,
half.
we
Yep.
are going to, and we're not going to give anything over the top either. We're going to make you throw underneath, and even your drives are going to milk the clock. We're going to milk it, and you're going to milk it, and we'll see where we are at the end. And, it just was a brilliantly coached game today by Georgia. Just brilliant. I mean, I watched that game in envy, really, of watching how the Monken called it offensively and how Muschamp and the defensive staff laid it out and just took everything away from Tennessee. It was brilliant football.
Scott from the back row, our director of video, Scott Forrester. I was positive Auburn was about to get blown out. Caddy got way more out of the guys in the second half than Harsin ever did. You cannot deny that.
You got a microphone, Scott. Just use the microphone.
So let's punch Scott up. 24-6 was that game at halftime, and they come back and at least force overtime. Taylor, our social media director, she believes in Cadillac, Dunaway.
Would those two hire him as the head coach?
I just can't imagine you would. I mean, no head coach experience.
Would Taylor or Scott, who are big Auburn people who work with us, 20% of our workforce, would they want Cadillac as the head coach?
Here's Taylor for the rest of the season. Yeah.
For the rest of the season. Well, you've got that, yes.
Yeah, you're going to get that. Dirty Death says take Ole Miss next week. I don't know what that line will be, honestly. I don't know what that line will be, Alabama at Ole Miss.
If only LT was here to tell us.
It's halftime. They're at halftime. If he wants to jump on.
Oh, I got nothing to do except turn my air conditioning on. I am burning up.
I am too, Dunaway.
I get hot when Alabama loses.
Like hot under the collar?
I don't know, but I'm hot right now. Hot. And I've eaten horribly today. I ate a whole bag of what's that Boom Chicka whatever?
Boom Chicka Pop. That sounds good, man.
I ate a whole bag by myself, Brown. How bad is that? Texas while you're pulling LT up.
Yeah.
Texas with a big win over Kansas State, 34-27. They now play TCU next week in a big Big 12 game. Fowler and Herbstreit will be there. That'll be prime time on ABC. Bo Nix with another big day today as he tries to get into the Heisman hunt. The former Auburn quarterback, he threw one. Well, he threw a touchdown. He caught a touchdown. He ran a touchdown. He ended up with 2 touchdown passes, 20 of 24, 274, a 91 QBR rating. He ran for 2 touchdowns, and he caught a touchdown today. So Bo Nix responsible for 5 touchdowns on his own today as they demolished Colorado by a score of 49-10. Just jump back in anytime you want, Brown. I'm just going to continue to do the Dixie Crystal scoreboard update here as we roll throughout.
Yeah, I just sent a link to Lance. He should be joining us soon.
Ohio State in a windstorm. I don't think they'll be dinged any by the committee. 21-7 against Northwestern. Notre Dame killed Clemson. I'm going to pull it up real quick just to see if Notre Dame got to 100 yards passing. I bet they did not get to. They did not. They passed the ball today 17 times. They were 9 of 17 for 85 yards passing, and they beat Clemson 35-14. That great Clemson defense. 9 of 17 passing, 85 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, and that's how they won the football game today. They ran the ball on Clemson for 263 yards.
Woo! That's taking your manhood right there, isn't it?
That's a manhood game right there. Absolutely.
Game. There's no doubt that's a manhood game. That's crazy. Hey, it is the Culver's post-game show. Culver's, welcome to Delicious Highway 119 and 280 in Tattersall Park. Also, Stadium Trace 459 and near the Hoover Met. Culver's, welcome to Delicious. We appreciate them. Also, Next Round Cocktails, drinknextround.com. Drinknextround.com is where you find more about Next Round Cocktails. Salt and Lime Margarita, Rosé Sangria, drinknextround.com. It's time for Clemson to hold Dabo accountable for mid coaching and performances. I don't know what he means by mid. I think maybe that was maybe bad coaching. I don't know. You think they'll? I mean, they're not going to fire Dabo by any stretch, but that program has slipped a little bit too.
It has. I mean, but they got a quarterback problem. DJ Uiagalelei was not good last year. He looked okay at times at some point this year, but it was back to bad DJ tonight too. But part of that's your defense too. You got ran on tonight at will. So it's a changing time for Dabo and them too. Yep. But I would imagine it's Klubnik in the future. If you're a Clemson fan, maybe, I don't know. I mean, you're still playing for an ACC championship. Big win for Gus today. UCF, They won at Memphis, something they don't do. They don't lose to Memphis, but that was a big win for them. Big win for Tulane. They're still in the hunt to be a Group of 5 team today.
Yep. Lance is with us now, so let's add him in here. LT, man, hard to put in words how bad that was for Alabama and Baton Rouge tonight.
Wow. So going back to both first possessions, the roughing the passer call I thought was awful. I don't know what you guys
terrible
thought.
Call. Yeah, that was a terrible call on Toa. Yeah.
Terrible call. And it only led to, I guess, 3 points, right? But then on the flip side, Alabama's first drive, it looked like that offense finally was in sync. Yep. And then, Bryce makes a bad decision. Well, it wasn't a bad decision. Actually, JoJo was open if he would have let him a little bit, but threw behind him, made the pick. And I don't know. It's just the more you think about this team, and one of you guys sent this on the thread, it really is the worst Alabama team since 2007. I don't think you make the argument.
Yeah, and I'm not saying it was me that said that, and it's not because of their stars or their skill set. It's their I don't know what it is. They don't have a killer instinct in them. They don't have as a group. Bryce Young is cold-blooded, but as a group, they don't seem to have that killer instinct.
That is kind of weird because somebody over here tonight was like, really, who is the leader of this team? Like Bryce is, he's elite. Will Anderson's elite, but do they have that guy in the locker room? I mean, none of us know, but it's just really weird they struggle this much on the road. And if you would have told me Brian Kelly in year one was going to beat this Alabama team, and again, I said this morning when we did the pregame, Jaden Daniels last year, if you were to say that he was going to beat Alabama this year, it's nearly impossible to make any logic of that.
Yeah, and just think of the players, the linebacker whose name I think it was Wilson. I can't remember his name now. He's a true freshman. He was dominant. He was in Alabama's backfield all day long. Jason Taylor's son, the tight end, couldn't be covered a lot of times throughout the night. The 2 tackles who were true. Those guys who were playing high school football last year, and they're making big plays in this game at Tiger Stadium to help them win. I tweeted it before overtime, LT. If you don't think Brian Kelly's not going to win a championship at some point in LSU, you don't know what you're talking about.
You're right. And I mean, there's a possibility this year they could win out. They've got tough games at Arkansas. I guess A&M's still a tricky game for them. It's such a good rivalry, playing on the road. But, they went out. They're in the college football playoff. And, once they get in, now with what happened to Clemson tonight, USC or Oregon still has a legitimate shot at getting in. But, whoever from the SEC gets in this thing, I think they're probably going to be favored outside of Ohio State.
Yeah, could get helped out a lot next week if Texas is able to run TCU. That TCU team, I mean, that Texas Tech team seemed like they played. Seemed like they had an opportunity to get them today until very late. So it'd be interesting to see what Texas does next week at home.
You have not been with us for the first hour of the show because you've been watching USC, LT, and it's back-to-back weeks. They've struggled a little bit, though, this USC team.
Well, I didn't have a huge expectation. I think I told you guys that I wouldn't be surprised if they were 7-5 year one, or they could actually go 11-1. And, the more you look at the schedule, it'll come down to that UCLA game. I think they probably end up winning that game and going 11-1, and we'll see what happens in what should be a really good Pac-12 championship game between them and Oregon. But there's just something missing. I mean, the offensive line is okay. The defense is not good. They force a lot of turnovers. They force one right before the half, and we're able to get in there. This game's over. California just can't keep up.
They're awful.
USC's defense, Cal's offense is worse than USC's defense.
Yeah.
But, they're just kind of out of sync. And what's weird is, like, you can make an argument right now, the 3 best quarterbacks in college football, Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, and Caleb Williams are all struggling.
It's true. Now, Stroud, Dunaway gives you the numbers when we say he's struggling, and the numbers do look good.
50-mile-an-hour wind.
Yeah, today, I will throw today out. I agree with you. He struggled a little bit against Iowa, and he struggled at Penn State, Dunaway, even though the numbers ended up looking good. Today, I'm not going to hold that against him. Those were impossible conditions to throw the football in.
Yeah, absolutely. I give them credit for winning and getting out of there with a W and move on because of those conditions on the road today. So, yeah, that's a W for me. When the rankings come out, it is Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, TCU, Tennessee for me. That'll be my top 5.
I don't know why I'm such a Marcus Freeman fan. He's just easy to pull for me. But I love the fact that this is kind of rounding into shape for him. And I love the fact that Clemson, because I think we all agree they're not an elite team. And now they're done. The ACC is completely done, wiped off the map.
I tend to agree.
I would agree with that. Yep.
Bobby says, LT, nice call on the Georgia cover. I don't think Hooker will be that inaccurate again this season. Maybe the refs will get out of the wide receivers' routes so they aren't rolling their ankles and sitting out. Jalen Hyatt rolled his ankle on a route right along the sideline early on. That was a good call. Georgia was dominant in that game.
Georgia was dominant. That defense, I think it shows you. I still think Alabama, and obviously they have some deficiencies giving up what they gave up to LSU tonight. And when they took that 7-point lead in overtime, I thought that game was over. But for Georgia's defense to do what they did against Tennessee today, I mean, that's an elite defense. And Stetson Bennett, when he's on and that defense is playing like that, that's a deadly combination. So I would assume, I don't know how you guys feel after Ohio State, struggling a little bit in those conditions, Georgia is going to be your number 1 team. Ohio State will be too.
Yeah. But LT, you agree. And I think you're saying exactly what we said earlier. That was both sides of the football, such a well-coached game Georgia played today. Tennessee could not do anything they were comfortable with doing all season long. Georgia took that away from them, and every time Heupel tried to adjust off of what they usually do, Kirby and Will Muschamp are already one step ahead. And offensively, they coached a brilliant game too. Just a brilliantly coached game by the Dogs today.
I agree. And what was weird was watching Hendon Hooker look unathletic. I don't know if that jumped out to you guys, but watching Georgia's defense around him, it just – and maybe this is one of the reasons that, the experts that are scouting for next May's draft don't have Hendon Hooker in the first round.
Shane makes a great point here, boys. The portal is such a game changer. LSU's 2 to 3 years away without Jaden Daniels, and he's absolutely right about that. That gives you the portal now gives a guy like Brian Kelly a shot. I mean, take Jaden Daniels away and start Nussmeier. What's LSU look like? I mean, they don't win that game tonight. Jaden Daniels has them potentially in Atlanta.
I brought this up earlier tonight in the middle of the game because it was kind of in doubt. I don't know how you guys felt. I always felt Alabama would win this game because they find ways to win games.
Yeah.
But I said, I wonder how active, because we all know how the collective is building for Alabama and a lot of these schools, but they've got money to spend next year. How active are they going to be in the portal? And I think it's going to be over the top. I think Alabama is going to go out and they're going to have like 10 to 15 guys coming in.
What position do you go after? Because, this year you went Eli Ricks, who was a preseason All-American by some people, which is still a joke. You got a great running back. That one worked out. Your receiver wasn't great that you brought in. Where do you go? To me, I mentioned earlier, you've got to start, to me, with offensive linemen. I'd like to see you go get some really dominant offensive linemen.
No, I think offensive line, and I got to be honest, they have missed on receivers, and everybody continues to say these freshman receivers are going to be really good. I literally, it looks like it's generic. It's every receiver is the exact same. They're all like B minuses. If that makes any sense.
I would take Kobe Prentice and grow with him. And after that, I'm like you. If you could do what was the game where you used to, it was poker, right? You draw poker, you'd get 5 cards and you could keep 2 and trade 3 back and get 3 new cards to build your hand. That's what I would do with those receivers. I'd keep 1 or 2 of them and then trade the rest back.
Hey, LT's neighbor says, nobody wants to say this, but the mentality has gone downhill post Scott Cochran. I think there's probably some legitimacy to what he's saying there. Maybe it took a minute to get that mentality out, but I don't know that Alabama has been as solid and mentally tough as they once were without Scott Cochran there, Dunaway. It seems like it finally caught up with him. You don't agree? It doesn't seem.
Well, I really haven't thought about it. Scott Cochran is at Georgia, but he's not really doing what he did at Alabama, and he's been off work for a while. Scott Cochran was there when Alabama was dominant, so you can't discount his contributions when he was there. He was obviously a big part of it. But this strength and conditioning style and sports medicine style they have is a big, attraction when it comes to the recruiting. I don't know. I feel like there are other problems that that can be fixed other than just that part of it. So I would start somewhere else and rebuilding it and not worry about what Scott brought and Scott didn't bring.
I just know this is not an explosive offense at all.
It is not.
And, I don't know what's going to change that. To me, it was always receivers. They had elite receivers. And, you look at a guy like Old Dominion's got a kid named Ali Jennings, I think is his name. But the kid's already got over 1,000 yards and double-digit touchdowns, and he's an underclassman. There is no way that guy plays at Old Dominion next year, right? He's 6'2",
You wouldn't think, yeah.
pounds. I mean, 6'2", 200 pounds, and he's dominating right now. I mean, you pay him whatever you want to pay him. And the guy has a chance to go, be in the spotlight, play week to week on national television and, build that NFL stock and at the same time make a lot of money. So I'm going to be fascinated at how active and how different Saban's recruiting will be in the offseason.
I agree.
Yep. Well, because let's see, John says, is it just me or Saban lost his mojo? Seems like the end of the Bowden era to me. Sad to watch. It's far from the end of the Bowden era, and I'm not ready to say he's lost his mojo. But this is not what we've come to expect from Nick Saban. And we went on live as soon as the game was over, so I didn't see his post game. But everybody's saying he took ownership, or not everybody, but some people in the chat are saying he took the ownership of it. I mean, he is the head coach; he's got to take ownership of it.
I think it's easy to take a shot when the guy turns 71 and he's got 2 regular season losses right now. But let's not forget, one is to Tennessee, who was the #1 team today, and they had every opportunity to win that game by double digits. They lost on a last-second field goal, and then they lose to the #10 team in overtime today. And they played what I believe was the worst game I've seen them play in years.
Yeah.
So, I don't think, obviously, they're an elite team, but to say he's lost his fastball is crazy.
Well, Deborah says, Dunaway, he got out-coached again. I mean, I would say he got out-coached by Brian Kelly tonight. I would agree with Deborah.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
No, I would agree with that. LT, I said earlier that this feels like the kind of season that he sort of reinvents himself again next year. If he continues coaching, I always leave open the door at the end of every year for him to retire. But if he is going to continue on, this seems like the fork in the road where he reinvents himself again and tries to morph off how they're playing now and go back whatever different direction that would be and play a different style again. So I'm like you, it'll be interesting to see how he builds the coaching staff and how he builds this roster again, and if he changes how he builds that roster.
I've been a Pete Golding fan for his entire tenure, I guess, at Alabama. But I think there are flaws right now. I don't know what's going on. I really don't. I have no idea.
LT, I watch Alabama play, and they don't seem to play with the same kind of emotions everyone else in college football is playing with. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I thought tonight would be, more urgency. And we talked to Henry To'oTo'o on Monday, and I was like, is there more pressure based on the fact that you guys have zero room for any error? If you guys lose, you're done. And he was like, no, not at all. And they were able to do that last year and able to get to the playoffs and play for a national championship. But it just didn't seem like they were playing with urgency tonight. I don't know. I can't put my finger on it. We know these are all 5 stars. We know it's the greatest coach in the history of Alabama football. We're going to look back on this and say they wasted maybe the best player. This is a big, bold word. The best player in Alabama football history in Bryce Young. And he was off tonight. And I told somebody earlier, if he threw 3 interceptions in the second half, I still think he's the greatest that I've seen in Alabama. But, he was just off tonight. But for him to not win a national championship when all these other quarterbacks it's really strange.
He is amazing, but, Brown brought this up on a couple of plays. If he just doesn't hand it off and takes them around the edge occasionally, there's nobody out there. There is never a threat of him pulling a ball out of a guy's gut and running it around the end like there was with Jaden Daniels. He never does that. He did a little bit in the Texas game when they had to, but tonight there was a bazillion opportunities for him to do it again, and he just didn't do that. He's just not that player.
Where do you guys stack Jaden Daniels as far as quarterbacks in the SEC right now? Because I'm beyond impressed.
I mean, I think Hooker and Bryce are, up there, obviously, however you want to stack them.
And
Stetson.
Yep.
I think he might be the 4th best quarterback right now.
Yeah, I'd go 4th. Yeah. I mean, you're putting him ahead of Will Rogers at that point, right?
You know what's weird is well, never mind. I'm going to pull this back. So Caleb Williams is the best in the Pac-12. Bo Nix is a close second, 1B probably. But he would have been the 3rd best probably in the Pac-12. Probably. By the way, Bo Nix, this continues. He'll be in New York.
You are going to get this one right, and it's going to be a crazy, not even a stake bet win for you, but just a win for you. It's going to be crazy.
Yeah, just a weird prediction on National Signing Day a few years ago if he ends up getting there. He's played well enough to get there. Whether he actually gets there or not, I don't know. So much of that is a team thing. But Oregon's back in the mix. I'll be, when it comes out, it's not going to shock me if Oregon is, what will they be, 6th maybe?
They'll be in front of Alabama, right?
I'll tell
Alabama
you, man,
way down.
If Oregon and USC went out, that's going to be like a number 4 versus number 5 or 6. I mean, that Pac-12 championship game will be a lot of fun.
All right, boys, that's an hour and a half there. We've given you all the shoulders to cry on we can. LT, we'll wrap this up. We'll let you get back to USC. So enjoy the rest of the game, okay?
I want to give LT 2 things to think about real quick.
Things to think about, LT. I'll hang up yet.
Don't nobody answer, but one, we've always said in the past we were going to Atlanta, even if Alabama and Auburn was not there. So y'all think about that. We'll give an answer maybe next week. And the second one, what do you do on New Year's Eve here in Birmingham? Because it's been forever since I've been here.
Well, it's funny you say that. I was, again, I've got no allegiance. I went to Alabama, and people can have their theories and thoughts about who I pull for or whatever. I am legitimately a USC fan now, but I wanted Alabama to win out because I wanted us to go to SoFi. I've never been to SoFi. And I thought it was going to be so much fun for us to be out there in the new year in Los Angeles. But unfortunately, that's not going to be the case.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, we own the company. I mean, we can make that decision.
We could.
Yeah.
I mean, do you guys think Tennessee gets in right now?
Well, I think Clemson losing definitely helps Tennessee. I think there's a pretty good chance they get in. Yeah. I mean, I think,
I'll tell you this, Brown. Tennessee is better than USC. Tennessee would beat USC by double digits.
Yeah. I don't even
so
those two.
What's interesting is, let's just say that USC wins the Pac-12 with 1 loss, and Tennessee, and there goes USC to the house right now. If USC has 1 loss, Pac-12 champion, Tennessee 1 loss to Georgia, who wins the SEC championship, who do you take?
Well, I mean, Tennessee's best wins continues to get dinged up a little bit, right? Tennessee's best win just lost tonight.
Yeah, but LSU now has gone up.
It has. I don't know,
man. I don't know. I mean, I think Tennessee. I mean, the Ohio State Michigan loser's not going to have a whole lot to hang their hat on. They're not going to have a whole lot to hang their hat on. The Ohio State Michigan loser, Dunaway. So,
but they'll be 12-0. They'll be 12-0 when they go to the championship game. So, the Tennessee will be 11-1 and not having to play that 13th game. So
no, my point is the loser of that Ohio State-Michigan game, I don't think gets considered because they just don't have a quality win to hang their hat on. So I would say the loser of that game is out. So that takes care of a team in front of Tennessee. Clemson is now out. So that takes care of a team in front of Tennessee. TCU just continues to win. TCU is Tennessee's worst nightmare because if TCU just continues to win and they're undefeated, they're in front of Tennessee.
I mean, I agree. And I don't know how they continue to do it. When you're on that emotional roller coaster, and Dunaway, I know you called the Texas Tech win tonight, and they had to come from behind again. And how they continue to do it week after week blows me away, especially in Sonny Dykes' first year. But again, if I'm right there in state, and I know Texas won tonight, but 3 losses already. Jimbo Fisher's got 5 losses already. 6 losses. If I'm in that state and I'm watching TCU do what they're doing right now in year 1 under Sonny Dykes with less talent, boy, that upsets me.
Yeah. Jay Price says Michigan plays Illinois. Illinois just lost to Michigan State today, so I don't think Michigan's worried about them.
The West is shit in the Big Ten. I mean, Illinois killed everything tonight. I mean, it was going to be fun if Illinois was going to continue to win.
You want to know what my total is today? I was 2-15 at one point. Let's see what it is. We'll find out.
So I am right now 6-4 with the over in Fresno or Hawaii to go. So I'm either going to go 6-5 or 7-4. So not a bad day. If I would have gotten Alabama tonight, it would have been a great day. My biggest play was Georgia, though. So you know what's crazy about that? And I know you guys were paying attention to this. Is Tennessee gets ball back and has an opportunity to cover after getting completely dominated in that game.
Out of 151 people, I am dead last this week. I am 6-19 with 1 game pending.
That is not good, Jim.
Nope. In 2 weeks, I've gone from first place to I was 29th the last I checked. Crazy.
All right, LT. We'll talk to you Monday, man. Enjoy the rest of the USC game.
Yeah, you guys have a great weekend.
All right, you too. See ya.
Go Bucks.
Go Rams. I think he was going to give us a go Rams. That is LT.
We play each other, Bucks and Rams. That's what he was doing.
I'm glad I cut him. I don't want you two fighting. Hey, thank you to Culver's. Welcome to Delicious. Highway 119, 280 in Tattersall Park. Also, Stadium Trace 459 near the Hoover Met. That's Culver's. Welcome to Delicious. Also, Next Round Cocktails. Dunaway, show them what we got at Next Round Cocktails right there. That salted lime margarita, you see, and the rosé sangria right there at Next Round. DrinkNextRound.com. DrinkNextRound.com. Get a Next Round cocktail. We appreciate them bringing you the post-game show. Give us a thumbs up if you haven't already, wherever you're watching us. Share us on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter or Twitch. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us on a Saturday night. Tough night for the teams in our state, the big teams in our state. Some overtime losses, but we talked about them. We'll talk about them again Monday at 9 o'clock. Jimmy D, have yourself a nice remainder of the weekend, buddy.
Cheers. You too.
Cheers. We'll see everyone 9 o'clock Monday morning. Take care.